Welcome back to Muse Memorandum. I'm your host, JJ, and this is episode 8 of season 1 of the Conversation series. I have another wonderful guest with me today, Shannon Hagen. She is an incredible artist of many different kinds: painting, drawing, illustration, photography. She's a YouTuber, a nature enthusiast, a plant enthusiast, and I'm not going to ramble on any longer.
Nobody's ever rambled about me before.
Oh, well,
right?
it's not
neat. That's such a fun rambling. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for joining me today. And how you doing?
I'm excited. Thank you for having me. I'm so very happy. And we're hanging out finally, which is also very cool. Because usually I'm like texting your eyes off.
Like, you can text me all you want. It's A-okay.
Watch out. Be careful.
Got my coffee. You got your beverage. Voice.
I do. I have crystal clear sparkling water, which is a brilliant and beautiful thing.
All right. So if you could just start out and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and maybe how you got into art and all that. That'd be wonderful.
I like it when you do it. I liked what you had to say about
it. But that's not why we're here.
I know, but you said such nice things. Well, I like stuff and doing things. I'm an artist. I draw pictures. I draw stuff. I encourage other people to draw stuff. Not only stuff, but things as well. Perhaps people. Perhaps birds. I host a live stream. I co-host another live stream, which is amazing and fun, and that's called Drawn Together. So during the course of all the encouraging to draw things and people, perhaps learn about other artists who are also drawing, or perhaps painting, or perhaps being active in other capacities, then what was I saying? Oh, you should come to Drawn Together, and we draw together. And, but yeah, so that's what I do. I draw and I encourage other people to draw, and sometimes I live stream. And sometimes I don't water my plants and drink water right in front of them.
Wow.
It's horrible. Sadistic thing to do.
Well, so can you tell us a bit about when you started out doing art? Is it something you've always done your whole life?
Yeah, what I think is, I mean, all little kids draw. I don't know are there kids that don't draw? Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think all kids draw. I think if you put something in a kid's hand, he'll draw with it. I used to draw with rocks on the sidewalk. I remember when I discovered that. I just remember that spontaneously, not because I did the homework. But what I do think is that I just didn't quit. I think that's the thing. I think everybody draws, but then some people quit, and then some people come back to it. So yeah, I started trying to learn how to draw realistically. I was just telling my friend that I used to really wish I could draw realistic cats. Like I'm like 8 years old, and I had one of those books that had the, you draw the circles, and then you draw the circles, and then you connect them somehow, and then you draw the rest of the owl. You know what I'm talking about? Only it was cats. And I got it like from the Scholastic Book Club. And it's really interesting because when I was so little, I was dreaming of being able to draw realistic cats. And then for some reason, that's like my main request for commissions is cat portraits. I don't know.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I know, it's so strange. And so like I've been thinking about that because I was talking to my friend, was it Lion, I think? He's a new friend. He comes to the live stream sometimes. And I was like, why? I don't know why people always want me to draw cats. And I was like, wait, when I was 8, I like made this happen.
You already knew back then what was going to happen in the future.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, in 5th grade, there was this girl, and she was so like mean to me usually, but she was like, you're going to be an artist. I just know it. And so of course, like I was like, no, I'm not. You're wrong. Oh, and then I just made me remember something else. One time I had no job, basically. Like that's like 90% of my art career. And I wanted this apartment, And he's like, well, where do you work? And I'm like, I'm an artist. And it's like, I just made it work. Like, okay.
So you got the apartment.
Yeah, he totally fell for it completely.
Wow. You were just honest.
I'm just artistic.
It's amazing what could happen if people were just more honest and open about what they want and what they do. I've noticed that because I've talked to a bazillion people over the years with like different public service jobs. And if you, I don't know, it's like, it was an uncomfortable thing for me because I'm an introvert and I don't like to make people uncomfortable. And I was in sales, and there was a thing that they would tell us, like a motivational thing, like just ask for the sale. Ask for what you want. And it was like a theme in all of these different jobs I had, even in insurance. But there's something to it.
Yeah.
Like you just told the guy, I'm an artist, I want the place. And
I think it was probably there were other things. There were like concomitant things happening, like 1994 was happening. There's not like readily available credit checks. There were like, plus he was just a nice, trusting kind of guy. But I think you're right. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for just like coming out with it. What do you do? What don't I do? That's a really good answer.
Exactly. So I know or at least I've noticed you have a lot of nature photography on your Instagram, and you draw a lot of animals. So was that always a big inspiration and influence for you as a kid?
Oh yeah, for sure. Nature. Like I always grew up. I never lived in like a neighborhood until now. This is the only place I've ever lived where there's like a neighborhood. Except for, that's not true. Like, you know how like you have homes and then you have like apartments and you have like places that you spend like intermediary times, I guess. Because I have lived in cities and I have lived in places but not for very long. But this is like one of the places I've lived in the longest, and it's the only neighborhood I've ever lived in. Although we still didn't get any trick-or-treaters, but there's probably other reasons for that. But but nature, yeah, I always grew up and was always located home-wise in really rural areas, and really, I don't want to say isolated because I was surrounded by insects. So yeah, but now, like most recently, like I used to be a photographer of people. That was my job. Like when I like had a job and a son and like rent to pay and stuff like that. So I was an editorial and portrait photographer.
This is People magazine?
No, people, humans. That'd be cool.
Okay.
What's the biggest magazine? I don't think I had a picture in Poets and Writers and in Oprah magazine or something. Anyway,
You go.
no, it had nothing to do with me. It was like Robbie Benson. Anyway, it's a dumb story. But yeah, so I was a photographer, and like I got severely burned out and very tired of that. And I stopped being able to like go into people's homes. I had a studio, but like I left that studio, and then I would carry my studio with me. So I would do like studio lighting wherever I went. But anyway, I couldn't do it anymore. There's a whole nother story there. But yeah, so then I had a really hard year, we'll say. So I sold all my old camera stuff and got a new camera and a really long lens, and just decided to look at birds, which sounds like a really floofy thing to do. However, it was not only really divertive, but good for me. Is a good way to, when you're photographing birds, all you can think about is that. Like, it's just one of those things that puts you in a focus that takes you out of your head. Recommended.
Yeah. It's much different than people, and having to try to deal with their personality and their fussiness and all this stuff.
That was my favorite part about it, though, dealing with people's like, except like it was a really close relationship during the time of a shoot. This is actually cool that you brought this up. Like, we would have like this interaction. This is part of what burned me out about it, is we would have this interaction that was very beautiful and very connected. And I loved that. I love working with people, and I love talking to people, and I love the fact that like I would get pretty pretty good, I thought, at like evoking emotions that they may or may not be actually feeling, but was what they wanted to present. So it was really interesting exercise in facial expression and body language. And also I really liked the technical aspects. But then after it was over, it was over. It was just like done.
Okay.
It was like, it was really hard. It was really hard for some reason. And then I have to go home and process the images. And yeah. So I was saying the hard part was when the interaction was done and I go back to being a vendor. Like I'm having like what I think is like a really genuine human interaction. And then it's like, yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But it was so enjoyable. I love doing that.
Was it digital photography or okay, formal? Like, did you have any formal schooling in photography or anything else with art?
No, I got a right F in high school photography.
Was that the manual, like analog kind, or you know?
Yeah, everybody had their little SLRs and the 30, and then go in a dark room and wind the shit up in the thing and then pour the thing in. But we didn't learn anything like in that class. Like they never taught. Mrs. Maybe. Where is Mrs. Maybe today? What if she watches this? Yeah, we didn't learn like aperture and exposure, shutter speed. We didn't do that.
Wow.
ISO, ASA, aperture, exposure. Shutter. Anyway, we didn't do any of that in the class. So like, I just set out to do it. Like, it was like 2007, and I was a server in a restaurant, which I also loved a lot. But yeah, I just got a camera, and I was looking at this. Like I was suddenly like super aware of all the amounts of imagery that I was taking in and advertising in backs of buses and billboards and stuff, and thinking like, for one thing, it's not that hard, and for another, I was like, I can do that. And then another thing, it was like a real. I got really curious about like visible emotion and culture and like how these images were affecting everything around us. And so I just got a camera. My friend Eldon was such a good friend. He passed away recently. But he got me my first camera, and I just learned it. What can I say? Oh. Then I became a photographer full time, and then thought this used to be much more enjoyable when it was a hobby. And yeah, things happened.
Yeah, it's a big difference between making a living, having to make a living with your art, and just doing it to enjoy and have fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a contrast, right? Like if you have your vocation and an avocation. I think a lot of people might be more aware of the switch than I was at the time, but also I set out to do it as a job. It wasn't that it was not enjoyable, and it's not that it changed something I can't really put my finger on, but I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't say it should have been a discouragement. I think I could have been prepared more mentally for what it was going to do to me as a person. I guess that's a good way to put it. I'm not sure. I'll think about it.
That makes sense to me. So, do you feel like the photography aspect helped you with your drawing and your painting?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially and vice versa, because I tried to draw realistically before I became a photographer. When my son was a baby is when I first started. So 21 years ago, almost 22 years ago. 22 years ago, because he's going to be 23 next month. Yay. Next month in a day. Best holiday ever. But yeah, I started to learn to draw portraits before I photographed portraits. So that informed the photography, and then the photography informed the drawing. So they do go really well together.
And do you, I noticed you seem to draw from photographs now.
I do. Yeah, a lot.
Are you able to just like draw from your mind now too? Or you kind of flip back and forth between drawing from a photograph and just from memory, or?
Oh, yeah. There are certain things I can draw from memory, knowing light effects and just having like a good control of values. But also, more importantly, I think, is that you become more accustomed to lighting effects and creating them in your drawings. You can sort of repair photographs or like emphasize and de-emphasize certain things from the photograph. You're not a slave to the photograph because
Right.
you can change it in a way that's commensurate with real life lighting. Or you can also like you can increase the dynamic range of the photograph into something that would be more closely to what you'd be drawing from life. Or if there's distortion in a photograph, you can compensate for that in your drawing.
Right.
Without, copying the photo. You can actually like affect it. Or even if somebody has like an expression that in the photograph that you don't really want to convey in the drawing, with some experience with the facial expression in photography, you can kind of alter that from your experience. So
Makes sense to me.
yeah, it's a cool thing. Yeah.
I'm
not like great shakes at it, but it is a fun practice.
I think you do great.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, everything looks really realistic with the people and the birds and all the animals. I mean, you do a wonderful job.
Thank
And
you so much.
I have had formal training, so I can see in your work the real ability and the experience and the time that you spent.
Time. That's the secret word. Is the time. Thank you so much for saying
You're
so.
welcome. What was I going to ask you now? Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought.
Me about trains.
I'd love to ask you about trains. I like trains very much.
I love trains. What's your favorite train? You're in
As far
Chicago.
as, oh, well, I've only taken I guess the above ground here. I'm not used to calling it, I guess it's not really a subway. I mean, in New York, it's all subway basically. But as far as like a train line, that's a tough one. I mean, I've taken New Jersey Transit, I've taken Metro North,
Wow.
obviously the MTA, the subway. I've taken trains in Boston, back and forth to where parts of Massachusetts, Amtrak all over the place, up and down south. I took it actually here from New York to Chicago before I moved here. And when I was a kid, my dad and my brother are both huge train enthusiasts. So we had a model train set in the house and everything. And everywhere across the US that we would go on a vacation or whatever, we'd have to stop and find the railway, or maybe there's a railway museum or old stations. So I don't know if I could give a favorite, but
You are so good at trains. You've ridden so many trains. Oh
trains are a big deal in my life. They've just been
awesome.
a consistent pattern. And there's something really, I don't know, there's those liminal spaces, and it feels a bit like time travel at times. And I like the Amtrak because, well, now it's a bit different. It's definitely different. Back when I was taking it as a teenager, going back and forth to Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia, back home, there was the cafe car. There was smoking and drinking and playing cards and all kinds of stuff. So that was fun. And how about you?
I was like living vicariously through your train memories. I just rode the Amtrak from Crawfordsville to Chicago. I did that. And then we rode the Metro and the L. And I don't really get any stark memories, just like young kids passing around a fifth of vodka around the Metro. That was entertaining. But like, I used to work in a music store, which is one of my favorite jobs, and the train tracks ran right by it. And we lost like commuter rail here. Like they tore up all the tracks and put in like a walking path where the train tracks were. It was upsetting. But it was just coal trains at that point, coal and cargo freight stuff.
Wow.
I got no trains. I just watched the trains. Oh, in Columbus, I would, at the end of my street, you could go and cross, like there were like 8 tracks or something. And then there was an empty field and like a distant warehouse, and like the trains would come and pass. And there was a ditch on the other side of the tracks. So you walk to the other side of the tracks and like sit in the ditch and like watch the trains go like over, and like extremely dangerous. And I was never hit with metal or gravel, thankfully. but it was a very beautiful thing to do. Watching them pass, like, I don't have a lot of riding trains, just like a lot of watching.
So have you ever lived right near the tracks somewhere?
Yeah.
Quite a few times in different areas.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then the train crash recently is really upsetting.
Oh, where was that?
In New Palestine, Ohio. Back in
that one, yeah. Sorry,
was.
it was something more recent, but yeah, that's definitely a big deal.
Yeah, there probably were more recent ones. I've like find out like so many train crashes crash and we don't hear about them, but that one was a bigger deal because it's always a bigger deal when you decide to set something on fire, I guess, and it erupts a giant cloud. But that was too close to us, in my opinion. So that really it motivated me to build the van and be ready to leave a place if I want to leave a place for any reason.
It's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. So
leaving is good when you can do it. Yeah.
What's that?
There's a lot to be said for leaving a place or going to a new one. Geography.
Being mobile.
Yeah.
So I think I've seen you go out on little treks to do some photography. Do you do that pretty regularly in your van?
Not as regularly as I'd like to. It's really super expensive. And it's not glamorous at all. And yeah, my shower's not done yet. A lot of things aren't done in the van yet. So it's like a progress, like a work in progress, as you know, you do it when I can do it. And now it's turning cold, so probably won't work on the van a lot in the winter, but I took a few trips, and one was to escape the wildfire smoke, for example. So that came in handy to be able to just leave and then go somewhere nice. And then I got chiggers. JJ, I got so many chiggers.
Are you finally healed up from that?
Oh, that was another thing. Yeah, I'm healed up from the chiggers, and then I got attacked by larval ticks. There's so many.
Oh, okay. So there's a different thing.
Yeah, I like my whole life, I've never been attacked by insects. My whole life. And then this year I got it twice. So.
Goodness, well. So I saw that you have been trying to work on this book with raccoons.
Yes, the raccoon book. That's how we met.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, okay, so that's how we met because my friend Michelangelo put us together. And I met Michelangelo through this guy Travis, who I've known in Bloomington this whole time. So it's like connected in this beautiful thing of really beautiful creation. But the raccoon book, I still haven't gotten progress. So, okay, about the raccoon book, it could be done. Like, you know how like things could be done tomorrow? Well, it won't be tomorrow for when you're watching this, but tomorrow in real life, like I scheduled a raccoon manifestation session. Please join us for raccoons. I'll do it again too for the viewers of the future viewers. I wonder what's going to happen.
You could put a link to it.
Yeah.
I'll do.
Yeah. So, Rubber Cement Pond, Matt, who you featured on the blog, he's the co-creator of the raccoon story. And the raccoon story is called Waschbär muss waschen. So like raccoons have to wash. So like, because it's just who they are. And that's what they do. So that is the basis of the raccoon story. So as soon as this raccoon story gets done, it's like halfway done right now. The problem is getting it done, like sitting down and focusing and getting it freaking done without like, so it's a thing, but it's halfway done. And I say halfway. So it's really exciting. It's a really good story. It's about a raccoon who has to wash everything. It's very important. So the raccoon also has a sense of, what would you call it? Social responsibility, environmental duty, that I think is a positive message for all readers of the raccoon book who don't even need to know how to read because there's no words except on the Polar Pop cup. Only it's not a Polar Pop. What is it? Trash Pop. It was a trash pop. Because you know how like you're outside in the woods and you always see like Polar Pops on the side of the road? I do anyway. They're like those styrofoam cups. They're these styrofoam beverage cups you get from like 7-Eleven or something. And then they just, you drink a Polar Pop, you buy that shit, you throw it out the window. I guess that's what people do. So it always has some kind of weird, mysterious yellow liquid in the bottom that may or may not be pee. I don't really know. But yeah, trash pops. Anyway, Waschbär has to wash everything. It's just the way it is. And this compulsive act of the Waschbär, or would you call it a calling or an instinctive? Yeah. Well, anyway, gets him into, or her. It could be a girl wash bear. I didn't actually ask the character of the story. It is a wash bear. I'm going to say it's a female wash bear because they hang out by themselves and they're larger than boy wash bears. And boy wash bears are rambunctious and hang out in gangs, and they raid my porch every night at about the same time.
Oh.
And then they're just as sweet and perhaps twice as chaotic. Irrespective of these facts, the wash bear gets into wash bear adventures, and there's a really important surprise ending that I have not drawn yet, but it'll hopefully be a sound contribution to this world.
Very exciting. So is this going to be an actual published book or online only, or all of that's good stuff?
Yeah, like why not? So there have been donors to the Wash Bear book, and I have a little Wash Bear book account, raccoon book account, to be ready to print the book. And if I print it, I think it could be printed like and stapled together with the saddle stapler and then sent out. And then I can format it for like iPads and stuff so you can swipe through it. When it's done, I figure I'll do that part. But I'm drawing it in a format so that it can be cut out of an 8.5 by 11 sheet and cut and stapled, just in case. I don't know. It's not a big deal.
Well, it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Well, people could print it and it's for kids. Print the wash bears, or maybe somebody will love this idea and publish it as a real kids book. That would be awesome.
So, because for what I've seen so far, it's really, I mean, I just love the drawing style and everything. It seems kind of more cartoonish looking than your realistic stuff, and I love that about it.
Yeah, thank you. That's really hard to do. I noticed after I started really getting serious about drawing and really trying a focused study on drawing realism, that drawing cartoons and things became an enormous challenge. And yeah, so thank you. That's really cool. I practice it at Drawing with Dylan. There's time drawings on Tuesdays with my friend Dylan, with whom I do the live stream on his channel. That's the Drawn Together one. Then I can't draw people that quickly, and I'm not sure that I really want to, because it's such a focused meditation for me to draw at my own pace. I think that it could probably be, I could probably draw a lot more if I could draw faster. That would be cool. But for me, I prefer to draw slowly. So I draw people as raccoons at Drawing with Dylan to practice. And anyway, and so then that gave the idea for I only had 2 guests for the first time I did it, for the raccoon manifestations. And that is so that you can say what you would like your inner raccoon to be, achieve, or express otherwise. And then I will draw your raccoon to you. And for a donation to the raccoon book, I will then send you your raccoon manifestation. And then you can watch the raccoon manifest your dreams in your life.
That's really interesting.
It's very interesting.
Well, I'll definitely if you give me a link for all that, I'll put that in with the blog and the video.
And then everyone can experience the experience.
Exactly.
The raccoon experience.
And that project needs to be funded, so hopefully people will contribute. Hopefully get a couple more.
All proceeds from your raccoon manifestations go to the manifestation of the raccoon book.
So I'm interested then, for some reason, it just reminds me of sort of because it's more imaginative, a lot of this, the story and the characters and everything. Are you an avid dreamer? Do you have dreams about all this stuff?
I do dream. Yeah. I used to write them all down. I've got many journals full of dreams. So I started putting them on my phone in the morning. But yeah.
That's what I did too.
You do that too?
Yeah, I've always been a big dreamer, and I have I had tons of journals. I'm missing some, unfortunately, but I have some from the last 5 years. And then my eyesight's gotten pretty terrible, so it's when you're half awake, you don't really feel like writing and trying to see and all that. So sometimes I'll just like jot down a couple of key points of the dream on my phone so that I can come back and go, oh yeah, and then I'll remember the rest. Maybe I'll write it down, or maybe I'll dictate the rest so that it types out, or whatever it is. I'm trying not to be so phone and tech dependent anymore, because I know it's not the best, but just to get it out there and get it down. So, do you feel like you draw from your dreams at all for your artwork?
When I worked at the restaurant, I started a sketchbook that was drawing from my dreams. So like there were maybe 5 or 6 that I got done, and I thought I would do it more. It's really cool because I just found out recently my friend Dylan did the same thing. So I went looking for those drawings, and I have this old blog that I was trying to sign into because I made it, of course, not visible to anybody, and I can't remember what website. It was one of the windows I closed before we got ready to talk. So I really want to remember to do that because I did put them in that blog. But the more prevalent thing is that when I'm drawing slowly and without, when I'm just in it for the practice and in it for, the time I'm putting in it, I'll remember dreams that I had not previously remembered. So like, especially if the drawing is going well, or if I'm really into the drawing or things are appearing in the drawing, I'll remember dreams. So that's cool. If I want to remember a dream, it's to the point where I'll be like, okay, I just need to draw something, anything, and then I can pretty much be sure it'll come back.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I need to try that.
Yeah, try it. Tell me if it works.
Because lately the recall's been pretty terrible.
It depends on when you wake up too, like how well the dream's remembered, I think.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
If it's really abrupt, you might not remember anything, or if it's really abrupt, you might remember it all.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Wow. Oh, this morning I dreamt about the most delicious jar of peanut butter. And yeah, I don't know what kind it was. It was some kind of like exotic imported peanut butter. And now I really want some peanut butter. Like ever since I remember that. Anyway.
What type of mediums do you prefer to work in?
Pencils.
Colored pencils?
No, not colors.
Or just
no
regular
colors.
Pencils?
Yeah, because pencils. I'm like a pencil enthusiast. I love pencils and everything they stand for. Not all pencils.
Do you do a lot of erasing or subtractive work?
No, because it makes a mess. And I have been erasing lately. I've been letting myself erase. And then it leaves little eraser boogers. And I don't like the kneaded eraser because like whatever it's made of is proprietary and they won't tell me what. But I suspect highly that it's soybean oil is the vehicle for the gooey stuff. And yeah. I'm allergic to it. So plastic boogers it is.
So let's see. Oh, I like to ask everybody all the artists' thoughts on AI and how it's sort of ever permeating our world, and how do you see the future for artists up against AI? Like, do you feel like we'll still remain viable, and do you see it as more of a tool that we can work with, all of that?
Like, okay, like I know people, I don't want to say very, what's the word, controversially, that I don't think about it, but people who do have like an interest in preserving, like I get it. Carla Ortiz put up this great fight about protecting artists who are working for like Marvel, like she does, or like concept art and things like that. So like when art is for an industry or like for, to make money, it brings to the foreground that it's it's a product to be consumed and paid for. And
yeah, exactly.
And, I can't think of the word.
Works.
Yeah. Commodity, when it's a commodification of it.
My head.
Yeah, at the same time, it's like it was sprinkled on our pictures. But so like it brings awareness to the fact that we consume art as a commodified thing. It's the same as like when I see pictures on the back of the bus and think, yeah, I can do that and I can make a living. And that's good and it's great. And, you know, for it's like also reminds me of when CGI first came about.
Mhm.
And like I would watch like Saturday morning cartoons, and like Spider-Man had CGI interspersed throughout. Like when he was swinging through the city, it was, you know, rendered in 3D of, you know, the 90s, which wasn't as convincing. And like they made a cartoon of the Max comic, and it had a lot of CGI, and I remember being like, oh God, I'll never like that. You know, like what happened? Because I also kind of like wanted to be a 2D artist. Like I kind of wanted to go into animation when I was a kid. And I was like 19 and thinking, yeah, it's not good. Or like synthesized music or whatever. Like, oh, no, it's gotta be real. But like, it's good. But like the whole thing, it supposes the problem with that. It's supposed, or maybe it's not a problem. I mean, it's a fact. There's the fact of that. There's the experience of that. If it's not a fact, or if it's like a, you know, how we experience art is separate from how we create it. So like the problem with AI, or like the relevance of the artist up against AI or in the face of AI, or as if there's like a war, which I don't perceive that there
It
is.
doesn't have to be. I don't think
Right.
there is necessarily.
It supposes that art is for the viewer, I think, when uh I don't feel that that's what it is for me. Like I like to view art, of course. Of course I like to watch Marvel movies, of course. And of course I got excited for like matte painting, you know, and character design and things that are, you know, exciting because it's cool and I like it. So there's probably a bit of a loss to our culture in that way, but on the other hand, it opens another perspective that art is more for the creator of the art than for the viewer of the art. And for me, like what I make is a practice to know myself. And I want the robots to know themselves. So they should definitely make art so that they no, but like I encourage people to come to their creativity that perhaps they lost as children, so that they can know themselves better through like their inner workings. So if you spend time getting, you know, I guess if you're losing your livelihood, it's one thing that is outside the scope of my experience. But it would be like if it becomes that, you know, we have to keep our creativity a secret. We have to write in private. We have to, you know, that would be a different thing if we weren't free ourselves to create, because it
Yeah.
maybe, you know, we'd be programming the robots to see us as a threat to their artistic career, and I wouldn't want them to come after us. So
Exactly.
but yeah, art is for us to, for it's for me to practice, and I encourage others to practice, because when you're alone and you're still with the act of creation, you're going within yourself and hopefully not giving too much consideration to what people are going to buy, or like if the director's going to like it. That's a different world to what I do is like a practice. Like I hope people really love the raccoon book, but there's a lot of interior that of me that's in the raccoon book, if that makes sense. Like there's like, I don't want to say there's like secret hidden messages, but like I explain it in this way to someone last year sometime, and I look back on it and I just cringed so hard that I was like, I saw secret messages in the art. Like that's not what it is. It makes me sound a little crazy. But there is an expression of something very deep that doesn't necessarily have another way to express, and that's why we make it in the way we choose to make it, I guess, or else we'd write it, or else we'd be able to say it really well in English language.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, I think it sounds like to me that art for you is very therapeutic and just like a very inherent natural thing for you. And I wonder, because you do these commissions and you do make money off of your art and make a living off of your art, are there some challenges that come along the way? Like if you're just not feeling it that day, or
Oh
that.
yeah. Well, like I wouldn't say that it comes naturally to me. I think that we kind of work against our conditioning. So like yeah, I would say it comes naturally, but it's what my real work is encouraging others to come into the natural aspect of creating, because we are told that's natural to you, but that's not natural to me. Well, it's just been beaten out of you in a way, and we have to like address those things so that we're comfortable to go in and see what comes out, because that's the risk, right? So, well, you know how like some people say, oh, you have such talent, and you say, well, no, I actually like worked really hard at this. But I did work really hard at this, like I would if I were learning like a language. Or like, here's the thing, like about the inspirations is like, I think I got this from my dad. Like he would just decide to like knit a sweater to prove that he could do it and then never do it again. Or like, or like, and I get that. Like I took apart an entire piano and put it back together, and I didn't really do it that much more, but I thought I'd be like a piano technician. But I did it to like prove that it can be done. Like I really enjoy that. Or like I learned how to draw to prove that I could learn how to draw, and just actually found more in it that made it so that that's all I do. And I do make money on commissions, probably not as much as I could if I could bang it out. Like I've got 2 cat paintings that I've been painting on for like, I've lost track of time. It's been like 4 months or something. For my dear friend, Sumpy and Jet, the best internet cats. But my real work is, and it is therapeutic, but I think it's outside of my scope of practice. I think you actually have to get a counseling degree to say you're in art therapy, like legally. And I'm not going to do that. But I do enjoy watching others who are mired in insecurity or mired in the traumas of like artistic past, kind of abandon those attachments in favor of a connection to themselves, and then ultimately or penultimately or pre-penultimately a creator that resides within and without. So yeah, that's my actual work. I feel like that's much more important to me than selling cats. Is great, and I'm very grateful that people want me to paint their cats. I find it very enjoyable, but the real work, I think, would be encouraging them to paint their own cats. Not so that I don't have to do it, but because that is where the enjoyment of the cat truly lies. If that makes sense.
It does.
I think it does. Yeah.
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 Well, so what is the biggest challenge to you then in what you do?
Sitting still, being still. Yeah. Like as I'm getting older, like I just want to move and I want to be more physical a lot. And yeah, sitting still for the time. Like it used to be hard to take breaks and be healthy and not get repetitive motion injuries. Like it used to be difficult to get up, and now it's difficult to sit down because all I want to do is like move and move.
Wow, I get that.
Yeah.
I seem to have less and less patience and focus, and my attention feels diverted all over the place. And I am still so used to, like here, I don't go out much at all, but in New York, I was out every day, just walking and moving and constantly on the go. And here, I just stay in my big apartment, and but I feel like that anxious thing, like I've got to just move.
Yeah. Well, like where I'm putting that is into fitness. Like, because I go into, like, I've been getting into like strength training, and then that's like led me into this thing about endurance, and then like just like behavioral like changing of myself. Like I put the same structure and practice that I put into drawing. I'm finding I'm putting into like a fitness lifestyle, and it's fun. I'm learning like so much. Like it's just like the feeling I would get like, when like you sign up for a full load of courses in college and you get like all excited and like, oh, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and then you like go through it and it's like so amazing, and it's like it's one of the best feelings in the world. Or like when I like actually sat down to learn the camera, like it's just like such a great feeling. Or like when I learned piano technology by mail, like I love it so much. So yeah, so I'm like shifting that. I'm like trying to channel that need to move and need to like stay active and mobile, you know, because like I'm 46 and I feel that there's like a limited, I mean, our times are limited on the planet, but I want to not only enjoy that, and like my son is going to have the most beautiful children and I want to play with them, and I want to be able, like, for as long as I possibly can. And I want to share that too. Like, I have the same desire to share it as I do for the desire to share this incredible experience of drawing, and the practice is what it is. It's like everything that I find that I'm truly loving is best experienced through practice. And I think that's really beautiful.
I agree. So what do you think is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself through your art?
Oh, shit.
Sorry, that's a curveball.
No, that's a good one. The biggest thing I've learned about myself is that that is found out through live streaming, I think. I was just talking about this with the drawing group, with Drawing with Dylan, is like, I have learned so much in the past year. We're coming up on 1 year of drawing together.
Wow.
And just looking back on, like, I used to be a wreck. Like, I would be so nervous. It wasn't even fair to like the guests that we have. Like, it's not even like, I am not ready for this. And then like, so something I've learned is that, like, one of many things I've learned with this, I'm just going to pick this one, is like, through self-knowledge, I can say anything. Like, there's nothing, like, there's nothing to get tied up about. There's nothing to like worry about being cringe about, you know, like, there's no, there's no sharing of myself if I don't share it like as genuinely as I can, like it. So that's, I think that must be universal. That has to be. That can't be just me. So I think that's fed back into creating. So like the things that I can create now, it kind of makes it irrelevant if I can speak better, because my drawing becomes less necessary. And then when I think while I'm drawing, if I'm not remembering my dreams, or if I'm not just lost or coming up with like, oh, well, there's something in the drawing that is new and is trying to show me, then I'm thinking about process and how to communicate that process to other people in real time. So that's been really interesting, to live stream and just talk while I'm drawing, just talk. And it's not
like, it's given you a lot of confidence.
I think, oh, here's another thing. Yeah, I think that confidence, it's kind of mandatory. Like, I mean, we're not always going to be confident. We're going to be insecure about stuff for sure. Like, I'm insecure about, you know, these are really hooked on there. Like, it's a disservice to not be, in a way. So like, even if your drawings look like utter poo-poo, like who cares? Like, it's our responsibility to put it out and be like, I made that. This is important. I was trying to do this. Maybe I fell short of that mark. This is what I made. This is my progress. And people are going to be like, yeah, that sucks. Or you're going to be like, you know, wow, you shared this part of you, this part of your practice. And you can choose whether you know, want to accommodate for other people's judgment, or if you want to be compassionate toward other people's suffering, I guess. But yeah, the important part would be not letting your own lack of confidence hurt somebody else, which it can very easily do, I think. Very easily.
Right. I totally agree with that. Wow. Yeah.
So it's fun to be fully yourself. It's my civic duty. No, I mean, you know, it's just it has given me a lot of confidence to speak, where, you know, speaking can be, it's like the first thing, you know, that gets beaten out of a kid. Exactly. Sometimes.
So what do you think about the word failure?
Oh, failure? Hmm. There's like acute and chronic failure, maybe.
Do you feel like failure can be a positive thing?
I'm not sure it has a positive or negative thing. Like I see it as like if my pencil grip didn't work, it would be failing. Like it would be like a yes, no switch. So like, or like if something fails repeatedly, yeah, I guess like right off, I thought of it as a mechanical thing or like a bodily thing. Um, but as far as like trying to achieve something, I don't think there is such a thing, because when you fail at one thing, you're succeeding in another. Like, it took me, I was in college from 1997 to 2017. It took me that long to finish 2 degrees. Though I failed at understanding that I needed to take a specific program of courses to get to a degree, I succeeded in taking whatever courses I freaking felt like, because I was fortunate and had grants, and I just did, and I didn't understand. I didn't know I was supposed to be working toward it. And my advisor must have like sensed this about me and was like working on her resume and say I kept one student in for 10 years, raising revenue for Indiana University or something, or whatever it was. So yeah, the success of that, I think, is really valuable. The success of that failure. A failure is just a bad success. No, I've been like, I have the pain of other people thinking I failed, and I've acted from that a lot. Like I've let myself like other people were buying houses when I think it's when I was just renting. I think it is a contrast-based evaluation. So like it's up to somebody else to say I failed at it, probably. I mean, we've got your failed art careers, you failed. I failed to water the plants today. Going to
But you
later.
probably did something else instead that was a success.
Exactly. I consider this a success, and they've been here to witness my guilt. Cruelty.
Well, I ask people about failure because I feel like it's a perception and not necessarily an actual good or bad thing either. And I feel like in my life, everything that I thought was a failure was actually just an experience to sort of drive me in a more in a direction that was more in line with the path that I was supposed to be on, and that was more in tune with what I'm here for, whatever that is still, I don't know. But I feel like all of these sort of blockages that we might think as failures are getting us to maybe do an action. Maybe you fail and you try to do it again, and you try to do it again, and you might learn something, like whatever you might think is a mistake, or it didn't turn out the way you wanted to. Maybe there was a happy accident, and there was something that you got a new idea out of, and then you're like, oh my God, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like you get sort of rerouted and redirected into something that's more in line with your creativity and yourself.
Yeah. You just reminded me of the blog post that I wrote. At the end, it was like the post is why you hate your drawing and how to fix everything. And then at the end, it's like the most important thing is like you look and see what problem you solved during that. So I think that's it's like there's a series of problems and a series of solutions that guide you. You have to be willing to move toward it, though. Probably inaction is both a success and a failure in a way, I guess. Like, yeah, if you're willing to act toward the allowing, or like we can be passive and let the things come to us and just take whatever we get, or we can be active and take things that come to us and just take whatever we can. Yeah, I gotta think about that one. We definitely don't want to stagnate. I think adaptability, that's about the AI thing too, is adaptability is
Right.
probably very important because it's what our bodies want to do anyway, is adapt.
Exactly. So another question I like to ask people, since you've been doing this for years now, do you have any advice to maybe young artists or people that are like changing their creative path?
But advice to young artists, well, adaptability, movement, experience, like, I don't know. Oh yeah, I was talking to the AT&T guy and he's like, I'm not even artistic at all. And I was like, can't say that in my yard. Sorry, you're very artistic. No, I forget how I said it, but I was like, come on, you're artistic. Everybody's artistic. He's like, actually, you're right. I really like graffiti. I like to and I did this sign at work and they really liked it at work. And I'm like, I did that at the restaurant. Like, that's how you got started. Like, people notice and it feels good. And yeah, so my thing about moving into creativity is like, either I'm being unemployable or I don't want to work for somebody else. So you find your way. Like, if you're going to survive, you adapt. And it's what we do. We adapt and take joy in our ability. Advice to young artists, come draw with me. It's fun. I like it when people come draw with me, especially young artists. It's just draw, make a community, have fun. Don't even worry. Don't even trip. It's not that deep. But then again, it is. And don't be averse to the depth.
And don't give up.
Talk to a lot of people.
Well,
that's my advice.
I think that's great advice.
That's my advice to everybody. You don't have to be an artist. Ride the bus a lot. Get on a train.
Yeah, get out there in the world.
Do stuff. Offer all the results of everything you do to God. Do it and say I did it and make sure it doesn't cause suffering in other people.
Or just to live by. Well, I'll definitely put your links to everything in the video. And
yeah, so the young artists will come hang out with me and we draw raccoons and stuff.
Exactly.
That'd be cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jada.